Disclosure Day is a 2026 American sci-fi film directed by Steven Spielberg, written by David Koepp, and stars Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, and Colin Firth. The plot follows a man fleeing the company he works for after stealing 80 years worth of files collected on aliens that have been visiting Earth. So, the new Spielberg joint. Okay, I'll just kind of rip the band-aid off right now. I can recognize him as one of the greatest directors ever, but he isn't really one of my favorites. He's a name that I very much grew up with, absolutely. I think his last film that I actually watched was Munich, back in 2005, but, Jaws, E.T., early Indiana Jones stuff, and Jurassic Park, those are my favorites, for sure. So I guess a couple of years ago, I think 2024, he said that his next movie would likely be a return to, his UFO alien type stuff, like some of his earlier work with, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T. And I think that maybe 30 or 40 years ago, Disclosure Day could have been on his list of classics. But, in 2026, it doesn't really work for me for several reasons. So in this story, the world is about to suffer the effects of a third world war. So I do like how, like it or not, current events are kind of in there. And so Daniel, played by Josh O'Connor, has just stolen data from his employer, the Wardex Corporation. The data being almost 80 years of evidence of alien visitation to Earth and other stuff. And not only that, but footage of Wardex abusing and experimenting on these aliens, not to mention reverse engineering their tech. And Daniel's opinion is that the info does not belong to Wardex, and it doesn't belong to anybody, any more than it belongs to the general public, all of us. And there's, controversy as to why he needs to release, all this information now, during times of all this tension, possibly exacerbating World War III in some of these characters' opinions. And of course, the movie addresses, the age-old bullshit that many Christians would not like to, or would not handle it well, to say the least. Now, if I have any Christians watching, I know I don't often go easy on you guys, but I had a rough go with Christianity as a kid. I studied it as an adult, and it's not for me. But I am willing to, to see us all as the same people, just as long as you do. And things have changed a bit since I grew up. I never really understood how, the existence of alien life, should change anything for anyone. Science is science, it doesn't care what you choose to believe. It just simply presents the facts that we have at that point in time. So the religious aspects here, they're not really heavy-handed, I'm glad to say, and only one of the main characters is one that holds any religious faith. I just think the religion argument would have had more relevance like 40 years ago. Then we have Margaret, played by Emily Blunt, who I generally really love. She's one of my favorite, living actresses of all time. And she plays a TV meteorologist who is suddenly able to read people's minds and speak languages she's never spoken. And her boyfriend is played by Wyatt Russell, who seems to be a part of the movie until you just don't see him again. And I hate writing decisions like that. Looking at you, David Koepp. His character seemed pretty fun, but yeah, he's just kind of disappears, making him ultimately pointless. Like, why was he ever there to begin with? Now, I do like how the movie starts. It's nighttime. Daniel's already caught by the Wardex goons, led by Colin Firth. He ends up escaping with his girlfriend Jane, played by Eve Hewson, with not only the data, but some really powerful tech. So yeah, this isn't going to be one of those, maybe aliens exist, type movies we loved in the 80s. This tells you that they do, right away. The trailer even tells us. That said, and I understand how less can be more, but I wanted more alien stuff, but the actual aliens are somehow a very small part of the plot. Most of the runtime is basically a cat and mouse, chase thriller, which is fine, albeit not really my thing, never really has been, unless it's done very, very well. And overall, this movie was just passable for me. The alien tech aspect is pretty important here, important to the story, very important to the story, but didn't really interest me. We've seen a million alien tech gadgets over the years in big Hollywood blockbusters, and I'm just over it. Most of it just never does anything for me, and here, definitely not an exception. Emily Blunt's, psychic abilities making her the catalyst for saving the world didn't really work that well for me at all. And yeah, overall, I'm pretty down on this. All that said, I'm going to give Disclosure Day a 5.5 out of 10. To me, it's only as decent as it is because of its large budget. The story is incredibly lackluster, just not a lot for me personally to grab onto. I think we will still get classic sci-fi films, questioning what kind of life is out there among us, among the stars, but for me, this isn't it. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex. Subscribe right now, please.